What made the high school legend become a legend? When I was in 11th grade, a guy a year older than me, in grade 12, saved a grade 9 girl from being abducted by her estranged father in the school parking lot. Her dad hadn't been in her life for years and had previously tried to take her from her elementary school. This being her first year in high school, I guess he tried again. The 12th grader heard her scream as her dad tried to force her into his car and he ran over and got involved, apparently punching the dad before the dad got back in his car and sped off. The guy was a legit hero at the school. This wasn't the kind of story I was expecting on here, but it's probably the best one. I hope the 12th grader is doing well these days. Our legend was actually the gym teacher. He became a legend by getting hit by a bus, getting up, getting on the bus and asking if everyone was okay. He ended up getting fired about 5 years after I graduated because he was caught soaking raisins in vodka and then eating them over the course of the day. Never change, Mr. Lev. I feel like these two anecdotes might be related. There was this girl Kelly who was very tiny, quiet, and seemingly well-mannered. Very unassuming girl. I don't think anyone knew who she was, big school, until she was escorted off campus by the police for stealing the credit card information of 14 students and going on a shopping spree. She disappeared for a year before somehow being allowed back in for her senior year. Instead of being a pariah, this girl somehow became a dang meme. Free Kelly posters would pop up with her mugshot on them. Her name was incorporated into chants used at football games like she was a weapon that could be used against the opposing team, and she was at the top of everyone's party invite list. His last name was Alcock and he ran for student council. His campaign posters consisted simply of his slogan, "Part man, part machine, Alcock." Our history teacher was ex-military, and he was absolutely jacked. Like, this guy would bike 10 miles every morning to school, kept an ab roller in his classroom, would eat salads and beans for lunch every day, the whole shebang. Anyway, one day he gives our class a pop quiz. Jeff, the strongest, biggest guy in my class, goes up to him and asks if I can punch you in the stomach and make you flinch. The entire class gets a 100 on the quiz. My teacher took him up on it. He prepared himself, and Jeff absolutely drills him in the stomach. Our teacher did not flinch. We still had to take the quiz, but Jeff went down in history as the guy who punched a teacher, and the teacher went down in history as a guy you don't wanna freaking mess with. Joe Sticker, class of 1969 at my HS. The guy didn't exist. He was created by a group of my friends as a mid-year transfer student with a totally fabricated deep background that was so smooth Joe even made the yearbook with a picture unavailable caption. My uncle's frat did something similar back in the 60s as well. Everyone took one of the classes for him, did the work, etc. And he graduated, if I recall correctly. Seemed a pretty common bit. In my first year of high school, someone ran for student body president and covered the entire school with posters saying vote for name. He is a cunning linguist. By the end of the first day all the posters were down, and he was told he was no longer allowed to run in student council elections. He won as a write-in candidate, but was not allowed to serve. Legend. Also, honorable mention to the person who, for an English Lit movie clip and then a piece inspired by it assignment, managed to play the entire butt-to-butt scene from Requiem for a Dream in front of a class of 11th graders, as the first year teacher sat there, paralyzed, and somehow didn't stop it. Halfway through my last year of high school someone managed to put a ceramic toilet on top of our multi-story gymnasium. I have no idea how that featuring was achieved. The school staff didn't know either, nor could they figure out how to get it off the roof once they found it. As a result, it remained on the gym for the remainder of my time there. I never found out who did it, but I will admire them until my dying day. It was Dr. Janitor, and that was his epiphany toilet. 3 kids at my high school literally saved a baby's life by lifting up a car off of a child that got ran over and had its head pinned under the axle. The baby would have died had they not showed up. Those kids were hailed as heroes, and if I recall, Good Morning America offered to fly them to New York for interviews, but they declined. I'll see if I can find the article. He cut his thumb off on a 3rd floor window 5 minutes before final bell and buses. getting all of us locked in the school of an hour as the ambulance arrived took him away and the school cleaned everything up. Someone installed games onto the school's server. There were a bunch of N64 emulators, Peggle, and some other games. But then there were also LAN games that could be played against everyone in the school, including Counter-Strike and Halo. Sometimes you'd go on and there'd be no one. Other times there'd be 10v10 fight in Blood Gulch. It lasted at least 10 years but don't know if it has been taken down since. The tech teachers at my school helped us install stuff like this. That is, Halo CE, in a hidden folder and hosted LAN tournaments at the end of every semester. It was fkin' awesome, dude. In 9th grade, one of our teachers got sick, so we got a sub, and this kid just starts talking in a strong Spaniard accent, like super well, and convinces the teacher he is from Spain, and he talks this way for 3 months. It was hilarious. And when another kid tried talking as a Spaniard too, he got really upset and accused the other kid of mocking his culture, etc. Then when the year ended we had to do a presentation and our teacher who got sick came. So the kid just nodded through the whole presentation while his group mates talked. It was hilarious. This made me laugh so hard. That's amazing. My brother ran into the statue of our high school mascot with his truck at night, knocked the bulldog off its platform, then threw it in the back of the truck. It ended up in a pond out by our house. My brother, who was a massive wallflower in school, and never told a soul until he mentioned it to me over some beers in our 30s. No one ever knew who it was, but it was a big deal, and I remember tons of allegations, accusations, and rumors as to how our mascots disappeared. Never in my life would I have ever suspected my brother. Legendary in my eyes. You guys should pull it out of the pond and put it back in place at exactly 20 years missing. That would be an epic end. We had a carbon monoxide leak at my high school one day in which the entire school was evacuated to the football field. The leak was taking so long to fix that eventually local news cameras started showing up. At about the 3-hour mark of waiting on the football field, one of the seniors ran naked across the entire length of the football field, in front of the entire school. He ran straight at the cameras that were pointed at the field, hopped the fence, and ran across a busy intersection, but butt naked. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. Every single person, including the teachers, was laughing hysterically. Kid became a legend that day for sure. I was actually part of the legend that still carries to this day. I was one of the editors for our school newspaper, and as a whole, we decided to do an entire issue looking at the drug problem the school had. Our teacher was supportive of it and taught us how to do investigative journalism. After a month or so we had everything together and it was really impressive. However, when the administration found out, they put the kibosh on it real quick and refused to release funds to have it published. We were annoyed and decided to raise money to self-publish it. Thankfully, my mom was a prominent business owner in the community and bought an ad for considerably more than we charged typically. She was impressed with our work and thought people deserved to see the paper. With the influx of money, we got it published and distributed it before the administration could step in. We also dropped off copies everywhere we could. Naturally, the community was outraged that kids were shooting up H in the parking lot in between classes and that there was photographic proof of it too. We made the photos so you couldn't tell who it was. There was so much outrage that parents showed up at the next school board meeting and demanded answers. The head of the school board nearly had to step down and the principal was put through the ringer. After that issue, our funding was completely pulled and the paper was shut down. We continued to have journalism class, but it wasn't the same. We ended up submitting the issue and won all sorts of awards for it too. Now 16 years later the school still doesn't have a newspaper and the story as to why is still told. It's one of the few things I did in high school that I'm actually proud of too. Great story. I'd be proud too. That's how journalism is supposed to work. Not high school but elementary school. We had this system where if we read a book we could take a quiz online of the book and we'd get points for how much of it we got correct, and at the end of the year the students that had a certain amount of points got to go to this after school party with water slides and food trucks, and it was a lot of fun. Anyways, this buddy of mine would read all these big long hard books. They were worth the most points, and he'd take the quizzes, write down the answers and pass them around to other students, and by the end of the year, There were ab 50 students who went to that party, including myself, all thanks to him. Hope you're doing alright, James. When I was a freshman, there was a senior on the last week of school who thought it would be legendary to streak on campus. He was 18. He was unable to receive his diploma on stage and had to register as a sex offender. Go Wildcats. That sucks. At my university we had an annual streak and tons of people showed up. Long story short, jerk of a substitute wouldn't let a heavily pregnant girl use the restroom, and she had to go to the nurse then the doctors afterwards, enraging entire graduating class of the girl. Substitute quits after 3 weeks of open season on him, with him giving this speech of how we're all ungrateful and how we've made him regret ever wanting to be a teacher. According to my little brother, who is currently at that school, it's still talked about because the faculty put in a rule that a teacher cannot prevent a pregnant student from going to the restroom. They shouldn't be able to prevent anyone from going to the bathroom. During gym class we noticed people's change and stuff would go missing here and there, as it was a British school with uniforms and blazers etc. Someone left their iPod recording in their blazer pocket and we caught the girl who'd been stealing our change red-handed LMAO. It was so crazy. BC, she was like the richest kid. She was actually a semi-successful child actor who'd been in several shows. She was like the richest kid, either did it for the thrill, her parents' attention, or both. Someone spread a rumor that Legend had a small PP. He responded by photocopying his Johnson and leaving the pictures on the desks of everyone in the class. He got suspended but set the rumors straight. BDE for sure. I was not in his class, nor did I see the picture. One way to leave your mark. Religious school. Until the principal's niece, 2 years older than me, got pregnant her senior year, the school had a rule that they would expel pregnant students. After that, they changed it to pregnant students are not allowed to walk for graduation if they are showing, but they are no longer expelled. A girl my class got pregnant her senior year and was not showing 2 weeks before graduation. When the school had to decide if she was allowed to walk, she did not look pregnant then, but then popped in those 2 weeks and looked super pregnant at graduation. But they had already said she could walk, so she got to participate. I went to public schools in a rural red state, and when girls got pregnant they weren't expelled, but quietly forced to move to a smaller alternative school. Their reasoning was if other girls saw their classmate was pregnant that would convince more to get pregnant. Out of a class of 200 kids we had 14 pregnancies our senior year. It was a state record at the time. Year 10, head boy has to be picked England, and it's picked by vote. It's a year group of about 150 students, so we had the obvious, popular, well liked by everyone kids. We had the popular lads, the football captain, and the sophisticated, obvious choice. Me and my little posse of in-betweeners. I suggest frick that. We pick one guy from the Forgotten Kids Club. Let's call him Carl. This guy has pretty below average grades, not a lick of athletic ability, and his social abilities. Well, he's part of a group of kids that stays behind and spends lunch in the teacher's class because he got bullied so bad on the schoolyard. Cole found himself named head boy to his absolute shock due to the minority being united and the knobheads all split and vying for position. He was a good dude as well, really committed himself to it. His grades improved. He became a better speaker. The lad glowed up considerably, and by the end of year 11 we had a whole army of people carrying him down the street for the final end of exams celebration. We would just sing his praises despite not knowing him that well, and it just caught on. Dong move, I know, but we did genuinely like him and thought it would be good for him. I like to take credit for suggesting the whole movement, but really it was just a testament to how one downtrodden dude can rise to the occasion and became an absolute freaking ambassador for an entire school. He won over everyone. Dude was impossible to hate. Whoa, what an honestly nice story. So, legend in this case means freaking lunatic. He took the teacher's thermos from the back of the room, not knowing it was hers. He goes to the bathroom with the thermos, comes back with the thermos. She says, "Oh, you found my thermos. Great, thanks. Just put it on my desk." He does, and then walks out of the room wordlessly. She opens the thermos in confusion. He crap in the thermos. There is something wrong with people. This guy never lost a wrestling match, ever. Local, state, national champ as a sophomore. He was amazing. My high school had about 220 total students in the middle of fricking nowhere, Oregon, and this 98 pounds ball of muscle and hustle was getting TV crews to come out and film us practicing and crap. I went to school with a guy who went undefeated in wrestling for nearly 4 years, won state as a freshman, sophomore and junior. He lost his very last match as a senior, for what would have been his 4th title in a row. Something like 151, would have been the first undefeated, 4-time champ in our state's history. My teacher assistant in college stopped showing up to class for a couple days. Later on we found out he had gotten hired, got into a car chase with the police. We never saw him again. Would have been more of a legend to have escaped the police and showed up for work the next day. LOL. Snorted a whole line of crushed red pepper and spent the rest of the day locked in a bathroom stall coughing his lungs out. That sounds like a punishment worse than most torture methods. This guy didn't become a high school legend until the last 10 minutes of our last day at school. I went to school with this kid for 5 years who, throughout all of high school, was bullied for the way he looked, considered a teacher's pet, generally unpopular with most of the school, etc. No one knew much about him at all, apart from the reasons he was, unfortunately, bullied and ostracized so hard. On the last day of our final year at high school, we had a leavers ceremony where teachers gave speeches, students were given awards, etc. Typical painstaking sit down for 2 hours while you watch all the accomplished sports kids drown in trophies ceremony. Out of nowhere, the principal introduced a performance from this kid, the notorious unpopular teacher's pet. We were all so confused. What could he possibly be performing? He got up on our school's theater stage as if he were to do a stand-up special. He then proceeded to perform a 10-minute long Adult Swim style sketch in which he did spot on impressions of not only every single teacher in the school, in front of them, but the exam invigilators, the cleaners and even the frickin' dinner ladies. This guy had fully produced and scripted an entire one-man sketch where he played all the characters being every member of staff in the school. For the very last time we would all be in that hall together. It was truly a then everybody clapped moment IRL, as he got a standing ovation from every teacher in the hall, and all 120 students who relentlessly bullied him all these years prior. It felt like a massive middle finger to everyone who underestimated and ignored him. This mystery kid, who'd been bullied and ignored for his entire 5 years at our high school, became a legend within 10 minutes on the very last hour of the very last day of our time in that place, and then I never saw him again. Wonder where he is now. Amazing story. Wonder if he became a writer or performer or something. I had a friend in high school who was cool as heck but looked like an awkward Korean kid. I mean, he sorta was. Our HS had TVs in every classroom, and we needed a new class president. So the first person goes on the TV. Keep in mind, around 1400 kids were watching, and talks about why he should be class president, what they'd do. Then the second candidate goes up and talks about why they should be president and all the good things they'd do. Then my friend goes on TV and proceeds to just sing the song Zombie by the Cranberries, completely a cappella, including the zombie AYE, BAYE, 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 OOO, OO, ooah, OOYAYAYAYAYAYAYAYA part. He won the election by a landslide, but got replaced 2 weeks later cause he really didn't care about it. We had a school music festival one year and my band played it, being a bunch of frisky 17-18-year-old dudes with raging hormones. Of course we had a song about sex and the chorus was "'cause all you wanna do is frick." The chorus repeats that line for about 4-5 times each round of the chorus and we play the chorus 3 times. It's our turn to play and we get about 4 songs into our set before this song comes up. We've got a decent crowd of a couple hundred kids in front of the stage moshing and whatnot. Other kids and administrators are sprinkled across the field watching the show. Now we can't yell frick at a school sponsored event, so the first run of the chorus our singer says the line but holds the mic out to the crowd and gets our friends to yell frick. By the end of the first chorus about 1/3 of the crowd joins in on the call and response, and you can clearly see from the stage that there is a buzz in the crowd about getting to yell frick. Next run of the chorus, the whole crowd of kids are yelling it and it gets picked up by the PA. By the third chorus it's so loud that it's getting blasted across the football field and the administrators can't do a thing about it but sit and watch. We heard about that for months after the festival. Some of the teachers gave us props for pulling that one off simply because it got the admin so pee. Yes, that's an awesome story. My high school had a battle of the bands and my band played one song to audition, then a different song at dress rehearsal, and finally, for our performance, we played a different song again. The teachers were P.O. and we snuck our singer in to sing. He didn't go to our school, so he wasn't allowed to participate. We weren't allowed to play the next year. ETA. Holy crap. Guys, thank you for all the amazing responses and the awards. You rock. We had a teacher who was infamous for not letting you go to the bathroom no matter what. I mean, so much so that if you accidentally started your period in class, she'd make you wait. This happened. So there was a girl who we'll call Katie in class, who tended to be a bit of a troublemaker. Katie hated that teacher because she begged to go to the bathroom and got shut down every time. At the end of the year, Katie asked one more time to go to the bathroom. The teacher said no. Katie asked another time 5 minutes later. The teacher said no again. 5 minutes after that, Katie asked again, but said that the teacher was not going to like what happened if the teacher didn't let her go. The teacher hit the roof and said that if she said one more thing, Katie would be sent to the principal. Katie shrugged and said, "This is on you," then, and pee on her seat, right where she was. The teacher sent her to the principal, who called her parents, one of which was a urologist. Her father yelled at the principal. The teacher ended up in deep crap. According to other kids, she never denied another kid the bathroom again. Katie was a freaking legend. We had a teacher who got fired over something similar. She told the kid to stand in the corner and pee in a bottle, so he did. She basically vanished after that. When I was a junior in HS, the wrestling team would hang out in the bathroom at lunch and pack lips in the stalls. There was a kid who was probably on the spectrum who'd also hang in the bathroom every day and eat his lunch there, so we befriended him and tried to give him some banter. I went to a midnight screening of Superbad and the first time McLovin came on the screen I was like, my god, that looks just like a slightly skinnier version of Stall Kid. So the next day at school I saw him in the hall and during our usual daps I was like, it's McLovin. That caught on, and for the rest of his time in high school everyone called him McLovin. He liked it. Then he was voted prom king as a senior. Hope you're well, McLovin. I've never heard the term pack lips before, and so my initial thought was the wrestling team all made out with each other, lol. The high school was near both a grocery store and a Petco, so someone bought sugar, a loaf of bread, and 100 crickets. They soaked the bread in sugar water, tossed it up into the drop ceiling, and let the crickets out into the ceiling as well. They bred like crazy and the chirping was constant and echoed into the loudest possible bring noise I've ever heard. That is awful. Breeding crickets smell terrible. Got a couple that are somewhat related. 10th grade Spanish. We had this teacher who was a bit strict and didn't have much of a tolerance for nonsense in class, but her punishments didn't have much teeth, so naturally the class would collectively see how much we could get away with. Story 1. Potato chips in Spanish is papas fritas. Someone decided to start saying papas chodes instead, pronounced chodes. She would say no, that's not it, but we told her that a substitute teacher we had one time, who was a native Spanish speaker, told us that in some dialects it's papas chodes, and she bought it. Also, we could sneak the word chodes into stuff and write it on the board. It even went so far that unsuspecting students in the class used it on the state test. Pretty sure it continued in subsequent years. Story 2. Same class. We had a project where we had to invent a product and film a commercial for it with a Spanish script. This was a partner project, and my partner told me he wanted to make a shampoo bottle that was shaped like a large penis. We called it El Palo Divertido, the fun stick. He went home and made the thing out of paper mache. He sent me a picture and I got scared because this thing was not subtle at all. I was so sure we'd get in trouble. We brought it to class the next day. Our teacher looked at it, held it, and I swear to you practically fondled it. We were nervously holding our breath. And she said, "Great, now work on your script." Somehow we flew under her radar. A class meeting or two later, we all took turns filming our commercials in class. Our routine involved numerous phallic gestures with this miraculous versatile penis-shaped shampoo bottle. You can get the shampoo out by stroking the shaft, jerk it off. You can use it as lip balm, rub the tip on your lips, stick your tongue out a little. You can clean your ears with it, dong in ear. We were being so obvious with this thing. The class was cracking up the whole time, and somehow we didn't get in trouble. The teacher thought it was all very well prepared. We got a really good grade on the project, and she even showed the video to other class sections and to other classes in subsequent years as a good example of how to do this project. Your Spanish teacher knew exactly what you were doing, thought it was hilarious, and also appreciated that despite the ridiculously long dong joke you made, you did put a lot of effort and creativity into it. She shows it to her future classes to indicate that you can have fun with it as long as you put in the work and you won't get in trouble. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.